And joining me is Michelle Penhall with the UNM Art Museum. Michelle, let's just jump right in. What defines a photographic masterpiece?
Well, I think any great picture that we can call a masterpiece has an enduring quality that lasts over time and something you can come back to over a very long period of time and it still resonates with a person. I think any great picture also needs participation from the beholder. John Dewey talks about this in Having an Experience about art. When you stand in front of a picture, you're bringing all kinds of things to it from your own filters, your own emotional being. And so there's a connection there, I think, a human and emotional connection between a person and a work of art. And if that connection happens and it's strong, then I think it becomes a very enduring image. So when you look at things, very famous things like the Mona Lisa, things that are considered masterpieces, and they were done a long time ago and they still resonate with a large variety of individuals over a long period of time.
It's a lot of what the beholder brings to the table.
Yes, it's not a static thing. A work of art is not a static thing. You have to bring something to it. You have to have a connection to it. Otherwise you would walk right by it. You wouldn't stop.
Does it help to understand the creator's vision?
You can't always know that, and certainly I'm a historian, so I like to get to the bottom of what somebody was doing, and I find that very interesting. I'm interested in biography as well as the person's intention, if you can find out things about a photographer that inform the picture that may not be as overt in the picture. You know, there has to be some quality of mystery, some quality of unknown, something that makes you question it and makes you want to keep reviewing or looking at this image over and over again. A sense of magic maybe in a picture on some even small scale that just makes you want to, continue to sort of interact with it. And we have this extraordinary collection at the UNM Art Museum. And
kind of a well-kept secret.
Yes, it is. Something we would like not to be so well kept. We have over 10,000 photographs from the very beginning of the history of photography to contemporary work.
For example, the Edward Weston.
Yes, so this became sort of, for me, one of the sort of signature images of the exhibition because it's a very striking image. It was made in 1928, 1930, and it's this essence of modernism. It's boiling down this vegetable matter to this essence of this form that Weston was so interested in. And it still is an image that I can look at over and over again and just get lost in it. It's something that sparks my imagination. It's also about seeing these things in scale, and it's a very small but yet very dynamic, powerful image.
And rather timeless. Is that maybe one of the things that defines, again, the photographic masterpiece?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, we have some of the very first photographs are of plant species and botanical studies, and so that's from the 19th century, 1840s, and yet this was done much later, and now it's 2012 and it still is a very powerful image.
You have one from Julia Margaret Cameron as well.
Julia Margaret Cameron started photography very late in life. She was, I believe, 48, living in the whole Victorian era, and her sister gave her a camera as a present, and she began making these photographs when women didn't typically do this, and she made some of the most extraordinary portraits that are still incredibly evocative. She was very interested in finding, and portraying just the quality of beauty. And she used family friends and some of the luminaries that she was exposed to in her time period, and sometimes they dressed up as allegorical figures or religious themes, and she just made some of the most extraordinary portraits. So the one that's in the exhibition is called The Wild Flower, which is a line from a William Blake poem, and it's just this incredible study of this woman that I think today is still so powerful, and it's this intense beauty that she was after. And I think she captured that with many of her portraits. You can look at them today and they look as fresh as if they were made, yesterday, and yet they were made in the 1850s, 1840s.
What about Moholy-Nagy?
So we jump forward to some of the modernists and their abstract photograms. So it's the essence of light and shadow, because he's not taking a picture of something. He's creating this image in the darkroom on paper with just these abstract objects and things. And you can look at these images and you don't know what they are, and yet you're still intrigued by the image. And he was interested in portraying things in a very objective way. And he said that he did not know anything about some of the early photograms, because a photogram is something that came out of the very beginnings of photography, and yet this is much later. So he was experimenting, and these experiments are just extraordinary things to sort of look at.
The collection itself, reconsidering the photographic masterpiece, I guess it gives one a lot to think about. Not just, I mean, you were talking about light and imagery and, you know, the time in which some of these were shot. I mean, really, you're still learning from them today.
Yes. I could do this exhibition 10 times and have a whole different set of photographs. There's over 100 in this particular exhibition, but I learned by seeing what we have in the collection, by selecting all these images, and then when you're sequencing them in the gallery, you're putting images next to each other and you're creating relationships, which you can't see when you're picking the work, and when you're installing it, you're seeing whole new relationships with images you hadn't really thought about. So you're creating new dialogues between images and between photographers, and that's really quite fun.
What are we seeing when we look at Muybridge?
Edward Muybridge is quite important because he developed a camera that could actually shoot action. And he did an incredible amount of motion studies with people, with animals, called locomotion studies. He was very interested in the science of it and seeing how people walk, how people with affirmities walk, how animals prowl. We have over 100 of his works, and they're incredible to look at, to sort of see, try and get into his mind and to see what he was aiming for when you look at this larger body of work.
I think it's kind of neat. I mean, we've talked about light and imagery, science, women in history and photography.
Right.
I mean, these are all things that are discovered through producing these masterpieces. It's pretty incredible.
Behind every great picture is really a good idea, and I think that's part of, in our collection, is pulling out these pictures and putting them on the walls and having people think about them and bringing their own personal being to the images. The exhibition now is quite a variety of images, from postcards to vernacular things and to great sort of masterpieces like Ansel Adams' Moonrise over Hernandez, things like that, that are very well known and they're out there in the public sphere.
So our understanding of a masterpiece sort of evolves as we evolve, so
yes,
it seems.
it does.
And there are changing factors in that. Let's discuss some of the factors.
Well, scholarship has changed dramatically over the last, say, 20 years. And so we have the canon of photography and the greats and all the masters that we know, and sort of this trajectory from 1839 forward. And you know, most of the images out there in the world are images that aren't part of this canon. But in the last 20, 25 years, scholarship has gotten more inclusive about these things. I'm thinking about someone like Mike Disfarmer. So we have in our collection a number of these photographs, and they're very small, little 5x7, 3.5x5 portraits from this very obscure, eccentric photographer who lived in Heber Springs, Arkansas, and he worked during the Second World War, actually, from about 1939 to the 40s. He was very kind of an eccentric guy. He made these incredible studio portraits of the folks in Heber Springs. And with these photographs you see, and they're just lined up, they're very American in a way because they're very frontal. They're lined up in front of a neutral backdrop. He had a studio with north lights. They're not these exquisite sort of exhibition kind of prints one thinks of, and yet he's sort of been rediscovered. He now has 6 books out on him. Wow. And his work shows up at auction for all kinds of prices. And there are these tiny little, small little photographs that everybody has at home of their grandparents or something. They're not always in the best shape, but the images have become very compelling, and so this gets written about and the interest evolves, and people get very excited about it and start collecting it.
We should all be glad it didn't end up in a shoebox in someone's attic, you know, the way it sounds. What about the little anonymous photo album? Let's talk about that. It's kind of interesting.
That's one of my favorite works in the whole exhibition. So when I was putting the exhibition together, we have a lot of work that I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to, and I found this small little album, and it has about 28, 30 pictures in it, and we open it up and there's a title page typed. I think it was probably done by a female, maybe by her sister. We don't really know who did it, but the images in there are some of the most extraordinary images I've ever seen. And for a small personal family, you know, some sort of personal album, there's such attention, there's such sensitivity to every picture. And the first one was up there was a man sitting like you and I are, talking to a skeleton with a black backdrop, and he was reading something, and all the pictures are captioned in this lovely handwriting, and I just found it to be sort of extraordinary. And you know, 20 years ago we would have just thought, oh, it's just an album, you know, and we wouldn't have really paid much attention to it. Now it's in a museum, and we show it sort of as an art object. But I think those things, these kind of vernacular images, there's so many of them out there. We have to pay some attention to them because Absolutely. They are important. They talk about culture in a different way than quote-unquote masterpieces do.
There's some humor embedded in that too.
Right,
so from one family member to another.
Exactly. Every good picture also has a story behind it, and I would like to get to the bottom of that album because there's got to be a very interesting story there.
It's kind of cool to find out.
Yeah.
Who did that. Who are some of the contemporary photographers that you think are making contributions that will have an impact over time?
Hugh Edwards, a longtime curator at Chicago Art Institute, who said that a great picture awakens something very different in everyone who looks at it. And it also takes a very long time, I think, for us to sort of determine what a masterpiece is or an enduring image. We have an image by Martin Parr, a British photographer, and it's this older woman, it's just her head in a rain bonnet with polka dots on it. He's photographed a certain class of people in England. I think it's one of the most extraordinary images because it's just her head and her eye is just sort of catching you. I mean, she's looking very far with one eye, and there's just this connection that you see. And something about it for me is very British. For me, it really encapsulates Martin Parr's work on photographing English people of a certain class.
It's amazing what you can get all out of one photograph.
Right.
We're talking about a woman's head in a rain bonnet and all of the things that you can really derive from looking
The details make it interesting. She sees everybody because she's watching everything with that look in her eye, and I think it's just a fascinating portrait.
Any other examples in the exhibit that really stick out or stand out of contemporary work?
Recently, maybe 2 years ago, I came across the work of a Hungarian photographer named Tamás Dezső. I saw his work in an exhibition, and he was part of a conference up in Santa Fe. And a couple of the pictures just knocked my socks off. I mean, I just was so drawn to them. And the one that's in the exhibition is called The Night Watchman, and it's this, large color photograph that looks almost black and white. It's a tiny little trailer up against this huge backdrop of a wall. And inside of that little trailer is a night watchman, and the only little color in the image is the little sort of orange light that's illuminating this tiny little figure that's in there. And I can still look at that picture of the night watchman and just be very intrigued by what's going on there, and just having a dialogue with myself, wondering about the gentleman in the trailer.
The story behind it.
Looking at every little detail, seeing how he's plugged in to this wall to get the electricity into his trailer, and you just kind of go through all these little details in your head and just wonder.
Sometimes the photo, it sounds like, is defined by as much as what's not there.
Right.
As what is. You're noticing the things that are there because it's very minimal in its presentation.
Right. So you do wonder, and that's why, to me, it's a good image, because you're having a dialogue, you're thinking about it, and
you're filling in the gaps.
Right. It's provoking something, and I think all good pictures should provoke something, should provoke a conversation, should spark the imagination, so that you don't want to have all the answers. I think you want to have some mystery. You don't want to know everything about it. You want to just come back to keep looking at it over and over again.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Really cool stuff.
Thank you very much.